Good afternoon, or morning, or night, wherever you are. I'm Mr. Just One More Voice, and I've got something to talk about that I touched upon in a video at some point in time. Again, I'm bad at keeping track of time. I can keep track of the dates when I'm working, which I'm working all the time, but the second my mind works as clock in, clock out. Once I'm clocked out, time basically goes out the window until I need to sleep, and then it goes out the window again until I need to wake up, in which case it comes back with a vengeance. So, the thing I would like to talk about today is firearm confiscation in the United States of America and the ending of the Second Amendment. So, I think we have addressed in the last video, I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. It's one of the interesting things about this country that's actually, I believe, has shaped it into a good country. However, a lot of people want to get rid of it for some reason. Now, hardly the majority, nowhere near the vast majority, but I would like everybody to consider something. And when I say everybody, here's what I mean. The people on the right side of the political spectrum in America that are afraid of their guns being taken away or concerned of their guns being taken away. Afraid is a word that borders on insult, but let's say concerned. Politely concerned. If you are concerned that your firearms are going to be taken away, I'm going to address you. And for everybody that believes that firearms can be taken away in the United States or should be taken away in the United States, I'm also going to be addressing you, the people that are far more on the left side of the political spectrum. So, let us say, somehow, and I do mean somehow, because I don't think this would ever get past the bill phase. You could absolutely draft a bill to make firearms legal in the United States. Hell, I could draft a bill, and I could send it in. It doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere. When people are drafting a bill, it means that they're writing something down that then has to be voted on. That's basically all it is. So, let's go ahead and say that, magically speaking, somebody drafted a bill to repeal the Second Amendment, and firearms were made illegal in the United States. Go ahead and say, imaginative leap here. Okay, well, that would have to become, first off, that would have to be voted upon. It would have to be voted upon by the majority. It would have to pass Congress. It would have to not be vetoed by the president. There's a lot of things standing in its way. But let's go ahead and say that for some odd reason, it just happens to pass, and firearms are illegal. Alright. There are more firearms in the United States of America than there are people. And that is ones that we know about. Those are registered firearms. Let's see. Yep. It's estimated that as of 2018, there are over 300 million firearms in the United States. Okay, first off, we cannot, as a country, at least the law enforcement, cannot even keep track of all of our people, and a lot of those want to be found. Like, we can't even find people that are actively trying to be found. I'm talking about people who are kidnapped here. Not just children, I'm talking adults, but it would be very hard to confiscate them. And here's the second thing. You would have to go out and confiscate them from the people that own the firearms. This becomes messy fast, and I don't think that the people on the political left have considered this, and I honestly don't think that they have the stomach for it. Personally speaking, I'm not very conservative when it comes to social policies. I'm a egalitarian when it comes to the sexism, of an egalitarian when it comes to, gender, whoever you're attracted to. So long as it's a consenting adult, that's all your business. I was one of the people in support of and voting for gay marriage, but again, I'm a rabid, horrifying conservative to some of my more liberal friends. So, you'd have to go out and confiscate the guns. Now, we have in this country, who's going to do that? Think the police are going to do it? I'm going to tell you right now that I respect our police force, I respect our officers, but that is not a possibility, and here's why. We have 44,000, roughly, as of 2018, 44,000 sworn-in officers for the entirety of the United States of America. Yep, 44,000. Now, that was that's the 2010 numbers. All right, so 44,000 in 2010. I'm assuming that number's gone up, but even if it doubled, that's not going to equally nowhere near the amount that I'm going to bring up just now. As of 2011, we had. You want to know how many hunters, registered hunters, we have in the United States of America as of 2011? We had 15.7 million registered hunters in the United States of America. That is people with practice hitting living targets far away, oftentimes moving. So you have a fairly sized police force trying to confiscate firearms from an immensely large group of people. 15.7 million registered hunters, and that's just the registered hunters. We're not even talking the people that just go out into the woods and, shoot a hog and bring it back. Which, again, good on you, because hogs are a nuisance. They go out and they just, rampage through the land. I am not supporting unlicensed hunters. Not at all. Go out, get your license, because that's a federal offense to hunt without a license. And again, for good reason, because if you deplete all the animals, there's nothing left for next year. So, get a license, unless hog hunting does not require a license in your state. Moving on. So you would have a small police force trying to take guns from 15.7 million people. 15.7 million. That's the largest standing infantry division in the entire world. Is a little over 1 million people, and that belongs to China. That is an army 15 times the size of the Chinese infantry division that the police would have to take the guns away from, and that is just registered hunters. We're not even talking about the hobby shooters. We're not even talking about the people that just, they buy a concealed carry and take the class because they don't feel too safe walking around at night. Or we're not even talking about the people that like to go clay pigeon shooting. We're not even talking about the people that illegally purchase a firearm. Don't do that. It's not good. But we're not even talking about the people that just have a shotgun for home defense. We're not even talking about that. And these people oftentimes do not want to give up their firearms. A lot of people in the United States who own firearms own so because of a deep philosophical reason. They do it. Now, a lot of people, because we have the sovereign right to defend ourselves. That is the right to defend your own life. That is the right to defend your own property. Our police officers are a fine bunch, most of them. But there's only so much they can do. They're constantly bogged down, so oftentimes it will actually fall down to the personal defense of a person. Like the personal defense of your own body, of your own sovereignty, of your own rights to exist as a human being. This is why a lot of people own firearms. So you would have to go to these people, go into their homes, and take them. Are you going to take the firearms when they're not home? Are you just going to have the police running through people's houses, upending tables, looking for them? Or are you going to have the police break down doors of people while they're home, arrest them, and then demand to know where the firearms are, or demand the access codes and keys to their safe? Is this what you want? Because I'm going to tell you right now, that is not going to end well, and there will be many officers that just refuse to do the job. And as officers, I would not expect the police to do this. Many of them are strong supporters of the Second Amendment themselves. Many of them are friends with people that own firearms and would not give them up. This is a deeply rooted part of the American spirit. And you would just be asking these people to rip it out? And you expect that to go well? You expect that to not have horrifying consequences? No, that would not happen. And the government knows that it can't happen. I mean, come on. They're intelligent enough to know that attempting to confiscate the firearms of 300 million people, that is a task that is almost impossible. And here's the great thing. If you were to do this, how long do you think it would take before the first house raid went up on social media? SWAT team busting down doors, people would be filming that with their cell phone cameras. It would go up online, and the first thing that people would do is they'd start either burying their firearms in their backyard, or tossing them in, wrapping them up in plastic and throwing them in lakes. And then when the police showed up, they'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry, officer, someone broke into my house and stole all my guns before you could." Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. And you wanting it to happen is a sign that you don't know anything about the issues. If you even suggest that that's a good idea, or even suggest that it's the solution to any of our problems. After all, some of the lowest crime areas in the world, Switzerland stands out as a prime example, has some of the highest rates of firearm ownership on Earth. Everybody has a firearm. And they have the lowest crime rate in Europe. One of the lowest crime rates in the world. It's not firearms. We as Americans are a very strong-spirited people, and we stand by our opinions, and we defend our opinions, sometimes to the point of violence. And we should not reach for violence when dealing with people who we simply disagree with, unless those disagreements infringe on your right to live, on your right to own property, or your right to bodily autonomy. The fact of the matter is that we need to learn to be more peaceful as a people. We need to learn how to talk rather than shout. We need to learn how to compromise rather than fight. And that's something that's been happening far too often in our country. You see it in our politics. You see it at the dinner table when people come home and try to have a meal with their family who they haven't seen in months or years, and it's just nothing but bickering. We see it far too often. And I think that's one of the hearts of this problem that we're having in America, is that we simply don't want to back down. We are afraid of looking like we lack conviction, or we're afraid of looking weak, or we're afraid of something. Afraid to back down, afraid of the other side winning and enacting some sort of impossible and sweeping legislation. Banning firearms would be like attempting to ban chocolate. People wouldn't just hand in their chocolate, they would start burying it. And then they would start trading it in secret. That's exactly what would happen with firearms. It's exactly what happened with prohibition. It's exactly what happened with a lot of illegal drugs. Now, I'm not giving my opinion on illegal drugs one way or another, aside from to say that personally I do not use them. But yes. So, to both sides of the political aisle, stop talking about taking away firearms. Because it's not going to happen. It's just not. And before somebody says, well, no one thought it would happen in these other countries in the past. Well, yes. None of them had ownership of firearms. None of them had the right to defend oneself in the same way from tyranny that America has written into its soul, written into its culture. They didn't have that. That's one of the things that makes America special. It's one of the things that makes us good. We are a good nation. We attempt to be every day. The attempt brings us closer every single day. We're working on it. We've gotten pretty good so far. And we may falter. Our government may have people infiltrating it that try to use and our troops for their own aims. But America's working on cleaning that. So, I've been one more voice, and you all have a good day.